Before my business was virtual and I lived in Bangkok, I was living in Atlanta and I sent a salesperson to a man in a wheelchair to do it the right way, belly to belly, face to face. He made that man so angry that the deal was dead before he left the driveway. I called the seller just to apologize, not to save the deal. I thought the deal was dead, but I was just hoping he wouldn't leave a bad review against me. That phone call ended up making me $50,000, and it's literally the reason I'm in Bangkok, Thailand today instead of living in an overpriced penthouse in Atlanta. I've never told this whole story on camera because for a long time, I didn't come out of it looking too good. My name is Jason, but some people call me Mr. Bangkok. I buy and sell houses all over the United States, but I run it all from Thailand. And I got here because of one deal in Marietta, Georgia that I almost destroyed. The year was 2020. A motivated seller lead came into my company. We were excited. We went out to the lead. It was in Marietta and it was a single family house. It was inherited and it needed a full renovation. The seller, his name was Dan. Dan was in a wheelchair. He and his wife wanted to fix the place up, but they didn't have the money. And physically, he couldn't take on the job himself. The house just sat there, decaying. Not an asset for him, but literally a weight. Every month it sat, the house got worse. And he knew it. That's not a lead. That's a man with a problem that he can't solve with his own hands. And I forgot about that for about a week. Now here's what I believed at that time. I believed what everybody in this business gets taught. I believe that you win the deal at the kitchen table, belly to belly, that a seller has to look you in the eye, that sending a human being to someone's house was somehow a sign of respect, that doing it over the phone was lazy or cheap or maybe even somehow less honest. So I did the right thing. I had a real person on my payroll drive out to the house. One of my acquisitions guys. He was good on paper, closed plenty of deals for me. I thought I was giving the best version of my company. A real person in the house looking the seller eye to eye. Everything in the industry told me that was the respectful way to do it, and I was giving him the best I could. But I didn't realize I was giving him the worst, and I didn't find that out until the damage was already done. I don't know exactly what was said in the room that day. I wasn't there. That's the whole point. I don't know if he pushed too hard for the signature, if he overtalked the guy and just didn't listen enough, or if he treated the man's home like it was just a line on a spreadsheet. What I do know is how it ended. They clashed. It got ugly. And Dan was pissed. Not annoyed, pissed. My company had come into a man's home and the man was already dealing with more than most of us are able to deal with, and it made him feel small. That's what my right away, belly to belly in the kitchen had produced. Everybody in a real estate deal tells you to meet the seller face to face. They say, sit at the kitchen table, look at them, build trust, build rapport, and we did that. I sent a salesperson to a man that was in a wheelchair, and he left that house angrier than before we called him. The kitchen table isn't magic. A bad conversation in person is still a bad conversation. It's just a bad conversation with a drive attached. So I called him. I called him because I didn't want him to leave a bad review or just think that we were jerks. And I wanted to be honest about why I did that. I didn't really think I could rescue the deal. In fact, I had written it all off. In my head, the lead was dead, and it was really my fault that it was dead. I called because a man was angry at my company, and I was the one whose name ultimately was on it. I opened with an apology. That was the whole plan. There was no second step. I said, Dan, that shouldn't have happened to you, and I'm sorry that it did. And then I did the only smart thing that I'd done in that entire deal. I stopped talking. I didn't pitch, I didn't explain, I didn't defend my guy. I just let a man who'd been talked at for a week to finally talk. That silence was worth about 50 grand. Most people in sales, we can't shut up for 4 freaking seconds. And when I shut up, he talked for a long time. This house had been a burden on him and his family for years. He felt completely incapable of fixing it or moving past the spot that he was stuck in. He felt frustrated and he really didn't know what to do. And somewhere in that call, I realized something that changed how I run everything about my business. You see, Dan didn't need a salesperson. He wanted to stop being embarrassed about the house. Nobody had ever asked him what he actually needed. They just asked him to sign. Those aren't the same kind of conversations. And sellers can tell the difference of whether you actually care about them in 5 seconds. The best deal of my life almost died belly to belly at a kitchen table. My company, we sent a real person in person to a seller in a wheelchair to try to do it the right way, and it blew up in our face. They clashed and he was furious. I called to apologize and I just listened, but by the end of that phone call, the deal had revived. At the end of the month, he got his house sold. He was paid, relieved, and genuinely happy. You see, he didn't need my handshake. He needed to be heard. And you can listen from anywhere. He ended up leaving us a fantastic review too. So the deal came back to life on that call. And here's how I actually bought the house that I never laid eyes on. Literally, never have I seen this house. Here's the entire due diligence on a house that made me $50,000. I got photos that the seller took on his own cell phone. He texted them over to me. Google Street View images. I went up and down the block, looked at the neighbors' houses, and then I pulled comparable sales, and I did that all from my desk. That's it. That's the list. I never went to Marietta, never walked that property. People think you need boots on the ground, but what you really need is 3 browser tabs and someone decent on a phone. Someone who'll listen, someone who'll care. Now, let's talk about the money. I signed a contract with Dan at $150,000. Then I found an investor, a flipper, who wanted the project at $200,000. I signed my contract to him. That buyer steps into my shoes and becomes the buyer. He brings the money, does the renovation, and on closing day, the title company takes his funds, pays Dan every single dollar that Dan was expecting, and wires me the difference. The difference is a little over $50,000. About 2 weeks, start to finish. And notice something about that deal. Dan got exactly what he was promised, every dollar. The flipper got a project he wanted at a price that worked. Nobody lost so that I could win. That's the part that the internet gets wrong about wholesaling. If your business model needs someone to eat it, to get hurt, you don't have a business model. You have a countdown to a bomb. I want to be super careful here because the easy version of this story is salesperson bad, Jason good. But that's not it. You see, Jason hired that salesperson. I trained that salesperson and I sent him there. I built a company where the person standing in front of my sellers was measured on one thing, whether he came back with a signature. So of course he pushed. That's what I was paying him to do. He didn't fail. My scoreboard failed. The failure was mine. One level, I used to think my job was to close deals. Then I watched a guy on my payroll blow up the best deal of my career. And I realized the most dangerous person in my company is whoever I put in front of the seller. Not the guy who can't close, the guy who closes at any cost. That's the dangerous one. Because you don't find out what he did until the deal's already dead, or worse, until it isn't. I'll tell you, I changed how I hire after that, and I changed what I measure after that, and eventually I changed something even bigger. Here's what that deal proved to me. The best transaction of my career happened over a phone with a man I never met, about a house that I never saw, in a state that I didn't have to be standing in. Nothing in it required my body to physically be in Georgia. And if nothing in the best deal I ever did required my body to be in Georgia, then nothing in this business required my body to be in America. You see, that's not a mindset quote. That's just what the receipt said. Most people move abroad and then figure out how to make money later. I did it the exact opposite. I had one deal prove to me that the geography limitation, it was fake. And then I bought the plane ticket. $50,000, never met the seller, never saw the house, never set foot anywhere near the neighborhood. Once you've done that a few times, you can't unsee it. Georgia's evening is Bangkok's morning, so I take their after-work calls with my morning coffee, while my competition is tired and logged off for the night. Living abroad was never the handicap. It's actually the edge. Let me give you the two takeaways, depending on who you are. All right? Stick with me here. This is important stuff. If you own a house you're thinking about selling to an investor, listen to this. The good ones will ask you what you actually need before they ask you to sign anything. They'll ask you about your timeline, your situation, what the house costs you every month. If the entire conversation is about getting your signature today, you're talking to the wrong company. Hang up, call someone else. There are plenty of us, and the good ones, we're not gonna rush you. And if you're on my side of the table, trying to do this yourself, the skill isn't the contract. The contract is just a form. The skill is being the person a stranger will tell the truth to. I got $50,000 for shutting up and just listening. I've never had a better hourly rate than that phone call. And I almost didn't make it because I was embarrassed. And calling that guy was the uncomfortable thing to do. The uncomfortable call is usually the one worth the money. All right, so that's the whole story. A deal my own company almost killed that came back because I picked up a phone and said, I'm sorry. People ask me constantly if I coach this stuff, and I do. Just a handful of people at a time. Not thousands of students like some of these guys and tens of thousands of dollars. But look, the group is closed right now and I can't let you in. Genuinely, for any amount of money, I can't let you in. What exists right now is a wait list at livefreere.com, and when a seat opens, I promise we will interview candidates from that list. Join that list, and I'll tell you what, today if you join it, I'll send you my blueprint for free. It's actionable steps that you can take this week without even needing me. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, just an effort to spread some goodwill. Subscribe, leave a comment. I really want to know what you're stuck or you need help with. That would be awesome. Please like this video too. And one more thing, Dan, I still haven't met him. Somewhere in Georgia, there's a guy who has no idea what his one phone call started. And that house, the one that was in shambles, it's beautiful now. It's completely renovated and being enjoyed by a new family. Those people, they also have no idea what their home started and how it gave me and a lot of other people freedom.